Hello, class. Welcome back for today's lecture. It is April 9th, a Thursday, final school day for this week. And yesterday we talked about the end of the war in Europe. We talked about Adolf Hitler's defeat. We talked about D-Day, some awesome events. Now we're going to flip it back to the other side of the globe, go back to Japan and talk about the end of the war in the Pacific. Now, we're skipping some steps. There's the Battle of Okinawa, which happens after Iwo Jima. It's another island invasion, another big bloody battle that exhausts the island, and the Americans win, or the Allies win, but it's costly. Now America has a dilemma. It has a decision to make. There's a thought of, should we invade Japan and defeat them the old-fashioned way, beat them into submission, win by TKO, as they call it. It's not a one knockout punch, but it's a beating that finally a referee has to stop. But doing that, seeing how the Japanese fought over every island, they fought to exhaustion over everything, then it was known that, they're going to fight to the death of nearly every citizen over their home island. They're not going to throw the white flag. If we invade Japan, it is going to take a long time. It is going to kill a lot of civilians. And more important to American lawmakers and decision makers, it's going to cost millions and millions of American soldiers' lives. And we'd already lost plenty, and we didn't feel like losing any more. So this is at a time when FDR has died, and he's replaced by President Truman. FDR was very diplomatic. He was very, very much a politician. He was definitely a great speaker as well as, planner. Now, America had been in the process of creating this atomic bomb, this nuclear weapon, that they had no clue the effect it would have. But they were in the process of making one, and they were wondering, will we ever drop this? Is this something we want to put on anybody, even our worst enemy? And this was a secret, top secret. The American people didn't know about it. No one around the world knew about it. Only about 200 or 300 people high up in American government and science knew about this. So FDR was much more, hesitant on it. He was saying this is kind of a last-ditch effort kind of thing. Now, when he dies, or when he's alive, Vice President Harry Truman knows nothing about the atomic bomb. He is not told a thing. He doesn't know it exists. When he becomes president, he is told, hey, there's something you might want to know. And it's explained to him, and in his words, he says, boys, we just won the war. And this is months before they'll end up being dropped. He knew this was going to be the final blow. He decides to use this bomb instead of risking American soldiers' lives. So you see on one hand the pros, and then you see on the other hand the cons. Cons being, this is going to kill a lot of innocent Japanese people. But They weighed it on a scale. American lives, Japanese lives, which, you know, that's what they found to be more important. Now here's a picture taken of the first atomic bomb drop. This is taken from miles and miles up in the sky. This is a satellite photograph. This is above where planes go. That's how big this explosion was. This is a huge explosion. Next year in American history, we'll talk quite a bit more about the detail of it, about the testing, and we'll watch some videos of it, and they're incredible. If you want to see a real bomb, like the biggest atomic weapon ever seen, like actually tested or used in world history, Google the Tsar bomb. TSAR, the Tsar bomb. It was created by the Soviet Union. And there's no video footage of it actually. Well, there kind of is. That bomb was built in I think 1961 and it was tested. It wasn't dropped on anybody. It was tested up in the glaciers. Up in like north Russia where nobody lives. And it was dropped up there. And that bomb, I think I may be getting the numbers wrong, but it was at least 10 times bigger than both the atomic bombs dropped on Japan combined. That bomb was huge. It nearly ended the world. It knocked the planet off its axis just a little bit. But that's neither here nor there. I just love the Tsar bomb. I think it's fascinating. But we're going to talk about the American atomic bombs. So Hiroshima is the first target. Hiroshima is a city in Japan. Now, people wonder why do they choose the two cities that they did? Why Hiroshima? When you think of Japan, if I asked you to name a city in Japan, I would hope that almost all of you could name Tokyo. That's probably the only one you could name. Heck, that's not many people in general could name more than Tokyo. Hiroshima was chosen because it had a strategic importance to Japan's military effort. It was an industrial capital. That is where a lot of goods, military goods, were created, were mechanized in Hiroshima and sent to the military. So they thought if we could bomb Hiroshima, we could get rid of that. So even if this bomb isn't as big as we think it might be, it'll at least damage their manufacturing for war goods. So at Hiroshima, we drop a bomb known as Little Boy. We had two bombs, Little Boy and Fat Man. Hiroshima had Little Boy dropped on it. Now that was a generalized name as it was not little at all. It's 4.5 tons of atomic fuel, of nuclear fission. And I'm assuming you guys haven't had chemistry yet, and even high school chemistry, I don't know how much they cover it, but uranium comes in I believe its nuclear mass is mostly 238. So it's called uranium-238. Uranium-238 is not, what's the term? It's not reactable. It doesn't create a nuclear explosion, is what I'm saying. Uranium-238. Now, there's another type of uranium that's atomic mass is 235. Uranium-235 causes a huge nuclear reaction. But of all of the combined uranium in the world, uranium-235, the reactive type, the explosive type, makes up only 0.7% of all uranium. So that means it's pretty rare, at least compared to uranium-238. So it's expensive and it's hard to find. That's not ultimately that important. I just want to show you guys that I know a tiny bit of science. So the target on Hiroshima was the Aoi Bridge. It's one of many bridges that connects the city around the Ota River, which is an important water source. Ground zero is set at 1,980 feet. What that means is ground zero is going to be where this explosion takes place. Ground zero is not going to be literally on the ground. Because if the bomb explodes, in this case on the ground, then its explosion can only take place going outward. It can only shoot away. And the impact of it is kind of limited. Whereas if the explosion takes place above ground, then it can explode outward and down. Cover more ground and have a greater impact. So at 8:15 a.m., bomb is dropped from a plane. The name of the plane was the Enola Gay. Strange name, I know. If you want to hear an awesome backstory, you're not going to get one from this plane. The plane is named after the pilot's mother. Her name is Enola Gay. Not all that exciting or interesting, but the Enola Gay drops the bomb. It misses its exact target by about 800 feet, which isn't that bad. When you're dropping a bomb from miles up in the sky, missing 800 feet is not very much. So it doesn't land right on top of the bridge, but it lands pretty close. After 1 minute of dropping through the air, it explodes. And in the initial blast, like the split second that explosion takes place, 66,000 Japanese civilians are killed. Not just killed, burned to ashes. They disappeared. There's no bones, there's no teeth, there's nothing. It dissolves buildings. It melts trees. It levels everything. Within about a 2.5, 3 mile radius. Anything within 2 or 3 miles was leveled in an instant. And another 69,000 are injured, burned badly. Oh man, I'm going to show some pictures later, sometime next week, of some of these nuclear burns. They are nasty. This is a huge explosion. So people just vaporized. There's concrete, like sidewalks, that I forget what they called them, but they were on the sidewalks. There were, oh man, what were they called? nuclear shadows, maybe, but an outline of a person would be burned into the sidewalk. Like their ashes would be burned into the sidewalk, and so there'd be a dark, kind of ominous looking figure, like an outline of a person. Couldn't scrub it clean. There's nothing to like move or sweep off. It was burned into the sidewalk. Like there's nuclear shadows of children on the side of the street. Like it's horrific. Everything that wasn't evaporated within a couple miles was on fire. And this isn't a fire you can just put out with a fire hose. This is a chemical fire. Water is going to make it worse. And the city just burns. And remember, this is before like the world's, connectivity era that we have now. Like you couldn't just text, OMG, someone just dropped a huge bomb. And the whole city was leveled so bad that the communication lines were all cut. There was no way to send a telegraph or a telephone call to anywhere else. So the rest of Japan does not know what's going on. People are trying to call dispatch in Hiroshima and they can't get through. It wasn't until hours later that government in Tokyo understood what happened. Kind of. And like they didn't even fully understand it. This was a brand new weapon no one had ever heard of or knew about. So this levels Hiroshima, terrifies the people, burns the city, poisons the water. Like the Ota River is now nuclear water. You can't drink that. It'd be like if every bottle of water you had, you microwaved it for 20 minutes beforehand. Like it's poisoned. The fish are all dead in it. President Truman tells the American people after, if they don't now accept our terms, they may expect a rain of ruin from the air, the likes of which has never been seen on this earth. Meaning, we've got more. Japan still does not surrender. I don't know if they're trying to call our bluff or if they just have too much pride, but they say, bring it on. Now, here are the two photographs of the two bombs. The top one is Little Boy. That is the one dropped on Hiroshima. The one below is Fat Man, and that one will be dropped on Nagasaki. Now, these two bombs, not only do they look different, but they also operate very differently. And I won't get into the science of it, mostly because I don't fully understand it myself. But like their explosion or reaction is going to be different. And again, this is just as much an experiment for American scientists as anything. Like they have no idea what to expect, so they're trying to record. Like we've got recon planes flying over Hiroshima hours after Little Boy is dropped, and they're trying to take pictures and they're trying to get information as to, okay, so it did this, it didn't do this, and it did this. Like we're writing down, all right, it melted everyone within a mile. It set the whole place on fire, chemical burns. It exploded this much. The scary thing is, these two bombs, their explosions were 1/10 of their actual potential. Now, what that means is the nuclear material in the bomb, if all of it had reacted to its full strength, they would have been 10 times stronger than they were. That's scary. That could have been catastrophic. So we'll stop there. Next week, we'll talk about Nagasaki and the dropping on it. We won't skip that. Then we'll talk about Japan's response. But today's essential question is going to just be simply, what was the name of the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima? Real simple. So we'll talk about that. You guys are more than free to look some stuff up. If this catches your interest and you want to know some stuff, please feel free to go on, kind of fall down a Google rabbit hole and look some stuff up. I think this is fascinating stuff. It's a huge part of history, and it's complicated, but there's some great stuff on it, and there's some awesome videos. If you can find like videos of American testing of these bombs, those are awesome. Like the explosions are huge. But yeah, I mean, from our perspective, this stuff's cool. From the Japanese perspective, it's horrifying. Like even to this day, they are so uncomfortable by this. This is a horrific day in their history. If you ask any Japanese historian what the worst 2 days in Japanese history are, it's the 2 days of the atomic bomb droppings. Like this is unparalleled in history. It's horrifying to them. But we still need to learn it, and we still need to learn from it. And I think we kind of have learned from it because no one's dropped an atomic weapon since. There's a reason for that. And that reason is because our weapons today are 100 times more powerful and dangerous than these were. And if these bombs had the effect that they had, then good Lord, help us if anyone ever drops a nuclear weapon on us, because it's going to be bad. So that is today's lecture. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Answer the essential question and then turn it in. You'll be done for the week. You'll get a nice long 4-day weekend. We do have a Zoom meeting at 11 today. If you can make it, that's great. Just going to touch base, talk a little bit, make sure everything's going all right. No Zoom meeting on Monday. You'll get a nice 4-day weekend, but be sure you guys come back on Tuesday ready to go. We're going to jump back in. Do not extend your weekend. You get a nice long one, then be ready to come back. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it. Have a terrific day and a terrific weekend, and happy Easter.